You've all done it. I know you have. Googled stages of dementia and tried to compare your loved one's behaviors to the charts that you were seeing, desperately trying to predict the future. I understand. But here's the thing, staging can only be helpful to a certain point. It does not allow you to fully understand your loved one's dementia type. In fact, it gives a false sense of clarity because it's only giving you several symptoms to examine, and then you end up missing out on tracking the important changes that are happening in your loved one with dementia to be able to relay that to the care team. In today's video, I'm going to explain to you why stages have their limitations and in fact sometimes fail caregivers, and I'm going to help you learn what to track instead. For those of you who are new here, my name is Dr. Sinclair. I'm a neuropsychologist, dementia care specialist, and founder of the Confident Caregiver Academy. Let's jump on in. Why staging doesn't fit every dementia. Care partners, it's important to recognize that the traditional staging models were built around Alzheimer's disease, Alzheimer's dementia, which follow a predictable pattern of decline in memory and thinking abilities. But if your loved one with dementia has vascular dementia, frontotemporal dementia, Lewy Body dementia, or mixed dementia, that means having two dementias at once, then your loved one is likely not going to fit that model. In fact, if your loved one has frontotemporal dementia, you are going to likely see changes in behavioral patterns or their speaking ability instead of in memory. If your loved one has Lewy Body dementia, you are going to likely see sleepiness, hallucinations. They are struggling to stay alert. If your loved one has vascular dementia, then you are going to notice erratic moods, erratic behaviors. It's not necessarily going to be a slow, progressive decline in one area. It's going to be more erratic. So if you're trying to fit your loved one with dementia into this stage and it's not quite working, or you're looking at all the different stages and it's not quite fitting, it's because it's not the appropriate model for your loved one with dementia. Or second, even if your loved one with dementia has Alzheimer's, every person's decline is different and unique. And so relying on just a small set of symptoms to plug your loved one's dementia into is not giving you the full picture. Why caregivers ask about stages? In my experience, I've noticed that care partners oftentimes cling to the staging model because they are desperately looking for certainty. You're looking for a roadmap, a timeline, a forecast of some sort to tell you how this experience is going to go because everything feels so chaotic. But dementia doesn't neatly fall into staging model, which is something you're likely discovering. And by only chasing the stages, then you're distracted from tracking what really matters, your loved one's day-to-day functioning, their functional impairment. Instead of asking, what stage is this, care partners, I want for you to start asking, can they manage medications? Can they safely prep a meal? Can they navigate the home? These questions give you a clearer picture for care planning, for support needs ahead, as well as for safety planning. One of my care partners, let's call her Lisa, she thought that her mom was in the early stages of dementia because her mother could remember a lot. However, by over-relying on that one aspect of the model, Lisa was ignoring some very significant safety issues. Her mother was leaving the stove on quite frequently, which evidenced that her mother was actually further along in her dementia process. But because Lisa held on to that one part of the staging model where her mother fit, she was not able to appreciate that her mother was progressing along in other areas. So I do want to call your attention to that, care partners, that by trying to fit your loved one into one symptom, you could be ignoring some progressions in other areas of their dementia process. Why stages don't match reality. So in addition to the staging models being built around Alzheimer's disease, it's important to note, care partners, that they also weren't built around home caregiving. Second, your loved one's brain can mask symptoms in a familiar environment or with common routines. And so if your loved one is home, they can present as higher functioning than they probably would present to me if I were to give them a neuropsychological evaluation. So they may not neatly fit into the staging box because their brain is able to compensate in a comfortable environment. A third reason that your loved one may not neatly fit into a staging model is because oftentimes illness, infection, or stress even can propel your loved one into different symptoms, and it looks as if they've been propelled into a new stage. One of my clients, let's call him Joe, came into session one day really upset, thinking that his wife was now in the moderate stages of dementia. After we discussed things a bit, I queried a little bit. It turned out that his wife actually had a UTI. Once she received antibiotics for that UTI, we saw her symptoms revert back to her milder symptoms. And so, care partners, it's important to know that because you're seeing a change in your loved one's cognitive status, their thinking ability, it doesn't necessarily mean that they've progressed to another stage. Now, of course, it could mean that, but not necessarily. It could be that they are ill, that they have an infection, or that they're under significant stress. So keep that in mind, that when we're solely focused on stages, you're missing the opportunity to be able to catch those medical crises as well. Here's what you can track instead or as well. Because caregivers are often so confused and frustrated when their loved ones don't neatly fit into the staging model, I encourage my care partners to record what's important: functional decline. Some of the questions that you can ask care partners while tracking functional decline are these. Ask, can they manage daily tasks, bills, meals, medications on their own? Are there signs of confusion, getting lost in the neighborhood or at home? Are there signs of paranoia or hallucinations or delusional thinking? Are they safe alone? Are they safe at night, or are they wandering constantly? These are the areas that you will track for functional decline. So go ahead and grab that tracker below, care partners, and it does not have to be lengthy tracking. You can keep your observations to bullet points even, but it's a way for you to recognize how your loved one is functioning in their day-to-day to help guide your conversations with their care team, instead of solely relying on trying to fit your loved one with dementia into a box that they don't quite fit into. Let's say Q1, month 1, you wrote down that your dad just needed reminders to prep his meals, but for the most part, he was still able to make his meals. But then by Q2, month 1, he's burning his food. He's walking away and leaving it on the stove. And then by Q3, month 1, he's forgetting to eat entirely. Now that's real data you can take to a doctor or use to prep the home for support. Why does this matter? Staging gives you a label. Tracking your loved one's decline allows you to construct a plan. When you walk into your doctor's office and you say she's in the moderate stages, okay, that can mean lots of different things depending on the dementia. But when you walk into your doctor's office and you say she's trying to take her medications multiple times a day when in fact she's supposed to take them once, she's getting lost going to the neighborhood deli, she's not able to remember something that I said to her 5 minutes ago, she asks 4 times in 10 minutes. Now that's real data. That's data that your care team can use to get you support, to get you additional services, and to get you the referrals that you need. How to use stages the right way. If you are insistent on using them, care partners, and that's totally fine, but now you're going to add that functional decline tracking as well. So if you're insistent on using it, fine, but keep this in mind. First, use them as a general map, not a diagnosis for your loved one with dementia. Using the staging model is not going to allow you to fully understand your loved one's dementia type. Second, use stages to anticipate support needs, not to define your loved one with dementia. What are the support that I need based on what I'm seeing here in the staging box? And third, use stages to communicate patterns to your doctors, but remember to stay flexible because there might be additional decline that you need to track and that you also need to tell your doctor about. So again, if you're going to use stages, then use them in this way, but also add the functional impairments that you're seeing to really help you get the services and support that you need. And bonus, care partners, here are 3 common mistakes with staging that I often see care partners make, and so I want to alert you to it as well. First, waiting too long to act. So sometimes care partners may think, she's only in stage 3, we don't really need help yet. And that can often lead to crisis because, again, if you're only looking for a small subset of symptoms, you may miss the safety and medical issues that's brewing. If we go back to that example that I gave you earlier in this video, where one of my clients was looking at the fact that her mother was remembering facts, but she wasn't really paying attention to the fact that there's safety issues in the home. Mom was leaving the stove on. So again, care partners, don't get so fixated on a stage number and then completely miss the safety and the medical issues that are brewing. Second, misinterpreting symptoms. If you remember the example that I gave a little while ago of my client Joe, who thought that his wife was in the moderate stages because she had worsening symptoms, she was not actually in the moderate stages just yet. She was ill with a UTI. So keeping in mind, care partners, that if you notice your loved one with dementia has been thrusted into different symptoms, don't necessarily assume that it's necessarily a bump up in their stage. It could be that they are ill, that they have an infection, or it could be that they're under a lot of stress. So if you notice a sharp change in your loved one's cognitive status, then go ahead and take them to the doctor just to rule out some of those common issues that a lot of care partners don't know that they need to rule out. And third, I see a lot of care partners shame themselves for not knowing what stage their loved one is in. I should know what stage this is. I should know what's happening for my loved one. Remember, care partners, there's no test for perfectly mapping out your loved one's unique symptoms. So please don't be hard on yourself when you're looking at the staging charts and your loved one is not fully fitting into a box. This is a unique situation and they're not always going to be perfectly mapped onto those charts. If this is resonating with you, care partners, then go ahead and get that tracker below so that you are actually tracking the information that matters, your loved one's functional decline, and not solely relying on staging. And also feel free to like and subscribe to this channel and share it with other dementia caregivers who also need this information. So today's takeaway, care partners, is the question, what stage is this, is so valid. Now you understand why you're asking it. Now you're understanding the limitations. Now you're understanding why you actually have to track the decline. The decline tracking, that's going to be your roadmap. That's your forecast. That's your care plan. That's how you're going to get the services that you need. So what can you do right now? Right now, you can go ahead and download the Function Over Stage Tracker. You can start monitoring your loved one's functional shifts either monthly or quarterly. Third, you can write down what's changing, not just what's missing. And fourth, let go of the stage label as your guide. I hope this video is helpful for you, care partners. I'll go ahead and see you in the next one. Bye.